Secretary Hegseth, those soldiers told the truth. Those soldiers are braver than you are.
I commend them.
They are asking for accountability. They deserve accountability, and I'm asking for the same, starting with you. And as I said a year ago, you need to resign immediately.
I commend those soldiers.
I yield back.
6 American soldiers came home in flag-draped coffins from Jordan. 30 more came home with shrapnel in their bodies. And the man responsible for their protection stood at the Pentagon podium and called it a squirter that squeaked through fortified defenses. The survivors heard that, and they went on record. They said that is a falsehood. It was not fortified. The defense capability was none, zero. And today, a congressman put those survivors' words directly in front of Pete Hegseth and asked him one question: are those soldiers lying? Watch this clip.
Head wounds, heavy bleeding, and then just shrapnel all over. So folks are bleeding from their abdomen, bleeding from arms, bleeding from legs. Secretary Hegseth, do you know who said that?
I'm not sure I do.
It was one of our soldiers describing the devastating Iranian drone strike at Port Shuaibah, March 1st in Kuwait. As you know, 6 of our soldiers killed, over 30 wounded. Secretary, do you know the range of the Shahed 136 one-way attack drone, approximately?
It depends on the variant, but it's got serious distance.
Several hundred miles. Do you know how far Port Shuaibah is from Iran?
There's a reason why we took extreme measures of force protection, because we understood the proximity challenges.
Mr. Chair, I'm going to reclaim my time. It's well under 100 miles. Before the war started, there was clear intelligence that Shuaibah was high on Iran's target list. Internal analysis had said the site was indefensible from aerial attack and should not be used. Yet you sent our soldiers from the 103rd Sustainment Command there anyway. Is that true or false? True or false? Straightforward question.
Are you going to give me a chance to answer or just play gotcha?
Did you send them there or not?
We took proactive measures from the beginning to ensure force protection and defensive posture were maximized across the theater.
Let's talk about what defenses they had. Prior to the attack, officers on the ground knew our troops were vulnerable. In fact, they requested additional force protection. Did they receive it?
Wherever humanly possible, force protection and counter-UAS was always made available.
They did not. In fact, when asked to describe the base's defense, one survivor who's come forward from the unit said, quote, I would put it in the none category. From a drone defense capability, none. So let's be clear, no counter-drone capabilities, no counter-rocket systems, no counter-mortar or counter-artillery, not even the basic overhead protection that you and I had 20 years ago in Iraq, and now 6 of our soldiers are dead. The next day, you downplayed the attack. You said it was a squirter that squeaked through fortified defenses. But since then, thankfully, brave survivors have come forward to set the record straight. One of our surviving soldiers told CBS, quote, painting a picture that one squeaked through is a falsehood. Another said the unit was, quote, unprepared to provide any defense for itself. It was not a fortified position. Another survivor said the building's protection was about as weak as one gets. Secretary Hegseth, that is obviously in direct contradiction to what you said from the Pentagon podium the next day. So are you saying that these soldiers, our soldiers, who survived this horrific attack are lying?
What I'm saying is before the commencement of the conflict, we put in maximum defensive posture we could.
That's a direct contradiction
we moved 70,
to what they said.
In this directing, can I speak, or are you just going to monologue falsehoods all over the place?
It's not a falsehood.
We moved 7,500 troops off of the X based on the intel.
Stop.
Based on the intel.
Stop. Reclaiming my time.
Because you yell doesn't make you right.
Calling,
just because you yell doesn't make you right.
I'm reclaiming my time on behalf of these survivors. You just said what they said is a falsehood.
There's a much larger
picture.
True? There's a much larger picture at play here that included integrated air defenses, bunkers, moving people off
then
the
why,
X
Mr.
to
Secretary,
ensure that they were
dead?
not part of the target. We moved those troops and all across the theater, thousands of troops off the X, off of their bases, because we knew what Iran was going to try to strike, and we knew there could be a tragic moment. There could be a tragic moment where something could get through. Of course, that's the consequence of conflict, and we remember those 6 every single day.
I want to finish.
But don't play games with.
I'm not playing games. I want to finish with one more quote from a survivor of the attack, and I put this on the record. Telling the truth is important, and we're not going to learn from these mistakes if we pretend these mistakes didn't happen. Secretary Hegseth, those soldiers told the truth. Those soldiers are braver than you are.
I commend them.
They are asking for accountability. They deserve accountability, and I'm asking for the same, starting with you. And as I said a year ago, you need to resign immediately.
Let us name exactly what Pete Hegseth just did in that hearing room, because it deserves its proper title. Call it the dead soldier deflection. 6 Americans are dead. 30 are carrying shrapnel in their bodies for the rest of their lives. And the Secretary of Defense sat in front of Congress and responded to their survivors' testimony with, "We maximized force protection across the theater." One survivor said drone defense capability, none, not inadequate, not limited, none. That is the word a living, breathing American soldier used to describe the base where 6 of his brothers died. And Hegseth looked Congress in the face and said, "We put in maximum defensive posture. We could." Those 2 statements cannot both be true. One of them is lying, and it is not the soldier who bled in the desert. Now understand what Hegseth actually did the day after the attack, because this is where your blood should start boiling. He walked to the Pentagon podium and told the American public it was a squirter that squeaked through fortified defenses, a squirter. That is the word he chose for a drone strike that killed 6 Americans and wounded 30 more. Not a tragedy, not a failure, a squirter, a one-word minimization designed to make the American public move on before they asked the obvious question. If the defenses were so fortified, why are 6 soldiers dead? The survivors answered that question themselves. The building's protection was about as weak as one gets. That is not politics. That is testimony from someone who was there and watched his colleagues die in a base that had no counter-drone capability, no counter-rocket system, and not even the basic overhead protection that soldiers had in Iraq 20 years ago. And then Hegseth did the thing that should end his career on the spot. When Ryan read those survivor quotes directly into the record, Hegseth called it a much larger picture. He said they moved thousands of troops off the X. He talked about integrated air defenses across the theater. He threw every military-sounding phrase he could find at the room, hoping nobody would notice. He never once said those 6 soldiers had what they needed, because they did not. And he knew it, and he sent them anyway. Before the attack, there was internal military analysis that said that site was indefensible from aerial attack and should not be used. Not should be reinforced, should not be used. The intelligence said, do not put soldiers there. Hegseth put soldiers there. 6 of them never came home. And his response to that documented intelligence failure is, you are playing gotcha, gotcha. That is what he called accountability for 6 dead Americans. Gotcha politics. A congressman reading the words of surviving soldiers back to the man who failed to protect them is apparently gotcha politics now. The soldiers who spoke to CBS on the record about what really happened that night are apparently part of the gotcha. The unit survivor who said it was not a fortified position is apparently playing games. Pete Hegseth spent more energy protecting his Pentagon press statement than he spent protecting the soldiers in that base, and he did it with a smirk. Can't afford to protect our own military, but we can afford to build a ballroom. Think about that. The 103rd Sustainment Command deployed to a base with 0 drone defense while the White House is under construction for a ballroom. Same administration, same budget priorities, same week. The soldiers got none. The ballroom got funded. Rep. Ryan ended with the only sentence that matters. Those soldiers told the truth. Those soldiers are braver than you are. He was not wrong. The men and women who went on record knowing this administration retaliates against its critics showed more courage in one interview than Hegseth has shown in every hearing combined. 6 flag-draped coffins, 1 press statement calling it a squirter, and a Secretary of Defense who still has his job. That is the story, and we are not going to stop telling it.